right.
Welcome to District Volante, 347 14th Street, and we're here with the City Auditor, Courtney Ruby.
Excellent. Courtney, hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, great place here. We're going to be back for more.
Fantastic.
You got it. Thanks. Courtney, thanks.
Hi, Zanny.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. As I always say, look at me. We're just talking. You don't have to worry about looking at the camera unless you want to point at somebody that might be seeing this. But you're city auditor now. You won re-election last November. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And but I want my viewers to know who you are. So, where were you born? Tell us about yourself.
So I was born in Akron, Ohio.
Oh.
And lived there throughout my high school years, and then I went to college in Washington, D.C. I went to American University, graduated with a BSBA in accounting.
Congratulations.
It was a fabulous experience.
What was American University like, by the way?
It was, to be at an institution of that caliber, and be an accounting major was pretty crazy because everybody's involved in politics, and here I am getting an accounting degree. But it was just wonderful. I met people from all over the country, all over the world, and Washington, D.C. was our university.
Yeah. How did you like Washington, D.C.?
I loved it. I really never thought I would leave.
Did you ever, well, you're in politics now, but did you ever think then I'm going to run for office, I'm going to, or even though you were in accounting, did your mom and dad say, like, what's up to this? Or?
No, I did not think that I would run at that time. I was in, when I graduated from American, I then was hired by Deloitte & Touche. Actually, a year before I graduated, I was hired. So I went right into...
So they recruited you?
They did. They recruited me. And I started out in auditing, and it was in 1992 with Bill Clinton's re-election campaign. Well, not his re-election campaign, his presidential campaign. And I was so enamored with who was this man that could elicit the passion and commitment of people, and what would that be like to be involved in making a difference in that way. So at that time, I took 2 weeks vacation from Deloitte & Touche, and I did a crash course on campaign management. And I agreed the next cycle, when I got done with that, I then agreed to go out with Emily's List on the next cycle. And
Great organization.
Fabulous organization.
Tell my viewers about Emily's List for a minute.
Emily's List supports pro-choice Democratic women throughout the United States. And so at that time they were supporting Governor Ann Richards for her re-election campaign. And Jennifer Treat, who was her finance director at the time, was looking for 4 good women to come to Texas as regional finance directors. So I went to Texas and raised over $1 million for Ann Richards.
Congratulations.
It was an incredible opportunity.
I gotta high five you on that one.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'm a big Ann Richards fan.
She was incredible.
What was she like to meet in person?
What you saw is what you got. That's what was so great. She was authentically herself, and as a woman, I think that was incredible to have a role model like that in politics.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you come to be in Oakland?
So I came to be in Oakland after working for Ann Richards. I then went back to Deloitte & Touche and ended up leaving one more time for politics. I was actually the deputy CFO for the 96th Democratic Convention in Chicago. And went back to DC after that and was the deputy CFO for the DNC. And
now, 96 was the year that we had, gosh, that's terrible that I should be able to remember who ran back then, right?
In 96?
Right.
That was Clinton Gore re-election.
Gore re-election. Stupid me, because Clinton was 92. I know I'm exhausted when I make a mistake like that. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Wow.
So it was amazing.
What was that like to work at the Democratic Convention level?
It was incredible. It was the first time that a job just blew my expectations away. To be involved with people who are committed and dedicated to create, in a short amount of time, to create a national convention.
Right.
And I just, it really inspired me at a deeper level to be able to affect change and to see the dedication of individuals, what they commit to make a difference in this country.
So, at what point, what was that spark, that moment, that aha moment where you said, aha, I'm going to make a difference, I want to be auditor? And also, why did you choose Oakland as opposed to San Francisco, right?
I moved out west initially to pursue ministry. So I was involved in politics, and I was very much, my spiritual practice is very important to me, and I was definitely...
Are you Christian, Baptist, what's your...
Non-denominational.
Okay.
So it's really just honoring what makes a difference for people in relation to the golden rule, really being good to one another, and honoring this earth and honoring each other. So in relation to coming out to Oakland, I was looking to pursue ministry. I'd been at the DNC when President Clinton came out with Monica Lewinsky and that was really hard for morale, and it was hard to, at that point I really felt like I wanted to take a break, and I wanted to pursue making a difference.
I gotta ask this question. What did you think of Clinton at the time after that happened? Did it change your view of him?
I was very disappointed, and I think that was part of my own discernment in thinking about pursuing ministry versus pursuing politics, because I did feel like here we had a man who made promises, and promises weren't kept, and to work at the DNC and have the morale be so low, and to have every document that we touched be under subpoena, it was really hard.
Wow, so you're basically under legal scrutiny, and wow, that's...
And to understand and to reflect what the state of national politics at that time, and what something like that does to us as a country. And certainly as a leader, what the president had taken on by his course of action, and how that impacted all of us. So I think that now as an elected official, it's only lessons learned as I look at other elected officials and see how they move through the world.
Right.
And one of my favorite quotes is from Gandhi, that your life is your message. It is how we lead and how we live, and that we inspire others, and that we bring change to the world. And I think that you have to be willing, when you step on the public stage, you have to be willing to live your life with that level of integrity.
Well said. So
when
what was the aha moment? Were you sitting at a dinner table? Were you watching television? And you said, I'm going to run for auditor. I'm going to do this.
It was, unfortunately, the auditor's position was on the front of the paper. There were challenges in the office. And I had to really make a decision whether I was going to be behind the scenes, continue to be behind the scenes, or step out front. So this is, as you see, like with me talking about ministry or politics, that I was discerning where I would go in relation to leadership.
Right.
And I was on the budget advisory committee in the city, and I was working for Episcopal Charities. I was their CFO and ran their service center that served nonprofits and homeless organizations in the area. So I was very much in a mix of politics, nonprofit, and service above self. So when I saw the auditor's office on the front of the paper, I had to really ask myself, was this mine to do? You had to be a CPA. To me, the office is all about integrity and ethics. And so I felt like it was my calling. But I'll tell you, Zenny, that my mom had passed away in less than 6 months prior to that. So it wasn't... This was in February of 2006, and she had passed away.
I just lost my father's the year before. That was the year my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Sorry.
So it had to be something greater than me to propel me to do this, because to be in grief and to make a choice like that is not, you wouldn't do it just unless you really felt that this was, for me, a calling.
All right. Let's talk about one re-election, and it seemed like even before then you were getting your activist feet wet, in a sense, because you came out with Russo. John Russo was the city attorney at the time, and is now about to be Alameda city manager, on ethics and public ethics.
Absolutely.
Having work rules for ethics.
Yes.
Tell my viewers about that, and where are we?
So I feel as a city auditor that establishing ethics in the city of Oakland is critical. And what I saw when I came on board is that we had a crisis in ethics. Things were going on that shouldn't be going on, and the employees, people want to believe, like in relation to the first audit that I issued was the payroll audit that said millions of dollars were being paid out, not in agreement with MOUs, policies and procedures weren't followed. Well, anyone from a leadership standpoint looking at that would know there's an abuse of, when you looked at the documentation, there's an abuse of power here. So you can't, everything is about tone at the top, which we know with organizations. If your tone exudes integrity and ethics and they're doing things above board, then you inspire your workforce to do the best, and you inspire your citizens to want to invest and commit to your city. However, we have stories instead about Oakland that people believe it's corrupt, or that corners are cut, or my boss is, that tone at the top is not being held. So now, if we don't address those core issues, issues of value, then we can't create the city that we want. So I very much saw that it was a part of my responsibility to start to impact that.
Right.
And part of it was to implement the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline, so employees would have an ability to call and report fraud, waste, and abuse. And our tips from employees exceed national averages. So they want to know. They're the eyes and ears outside telling
and they're
us.
using it. Wow.
Absolutely.
Are they using it to as vendettas against other people sometime, or is there? How do you read out that? Because sometimes, as a guy who worked in the city of Oakland, I'll tell you there's people who do that.
Yeah.
So how do you root out the people who are really trying to help the city, as opposed to people who are just exacting personal vendettas?
And we follow up on every tip that comes in, and if it's not substantiated, then the evidence isn't there. So it becomes pretty clear, because we need evidence in order to support an investigation. And luckily, I feel like for the most part, the hotline has not been used for those purposes. But as we were getting ready to launch that,
what the hotline is? Is it?
It is, well, the best way to go is to go to the website, oaklandauditor.com.
Okay, so it's more a hot page than a hotline.
You can report online, or you can report on the phone, and the phone number is on the website. And and I can get you the phone number. I just unfortunately.
Well, I can dig it up. That's okay. Yeah. No sweat.
So
it's enough to want to remember their cell phone numbers and every other number down.
Exactly. I know. I'm too dependent on my iPhone. So it's great. You can make online reports. You can get a live operator. It is manned 24/7. So, and it's it's a third-party service.
Oh.
So it's very important that employees can trust. And this is also why I wanted it in the city auditor's office, is because it was critical that people knew that they could go to an independent source. It wasn't any of the city offices, and that all that information is kept confidential. So that was one of the things that right away it was critical to do that. In addition to that, I had legislation passed both at a state and local level to protect whistleblowers, because I wanted a whistleblower to be able to come in my office and look me in the eye and tell me what was working or what wasn't working, what their concerns were, and I could protect their identity. Prior to that legislation, we would have had to litigate to protect their identity.
Now, I know you and Russo drafted this together. How do you feel about John leaving?
I think it's a travesty for the city that he is leaving. I think that the city attorney...
My fire blog post was April Fool, by the way. He's like... I couldn't resist. He was sticking out there.
I bet that got a lot of people excited.
Yeah, actually, Dan Siegel's son, Michael, you know who you are. He sent me an email saying you had us fooled.
That is too funny.
But it said Lurper Sleuth at the bottom, so it made just April Fool spelled backward. So anyway, it was...
Well, my hope is now whoever steps into that position holds it with the level of professionalism that John has held with his staff, and it's a critical, very, very critical role to the city, and it's critical to the future of the city.
Now, speaking of levels of professionalism, let's talk about ABC Security.
Sure.
How did it come to you that there was this problem with ABC Security getting recommended for a contract by council, the campaign contributions, but then also they weren't city staff recommended. Who alerted you to that? Did you see it yourself?
I knew that the contract was in front of the council from reviewing the agendas. I knew an RFP had been let, and I always watch the committee hearings, so I know what's going on in the city. Because as a watchdog, that's my job, right? So I knew that when the committee was reviewing the recommendation, that staff was recommending one company that was rated number 1, and that there was conversation in relation to ABC, which at that time was rated number 5.
Wow.
So
5 spots down.
Yes. And so I made it a point at the next committee hearing to make sure that I came down and was in the committee room to listen to the next level of discussion that the council was going to have. And so at that meeting, the council then moved to recommend ABC, who now was placed number 6. And
they went down.
They went down.
Down. Wow.
And so they were placed at number 6, and then that was the recommendation to full council, which will be heard tomorrow night. So I was alarmed that you would have a contract.
That means we're going to get this up tonight. So.
So that you would have a contractor, go through an RFP process. And at first, it's like, I understand if there's a flaw that's been identified in the process, that's one thing. So, and just last year, we had looked at the parking contract because there was concerns around the award of the parking contract. So my office went in and reviewed the RFP process. So we wanted to see if there's a flaw, we'll go in and evaluate it. But I wasn't hearing that there was a flaw. That isn't what was coming from the dais. What was coming from the dais was questions or that this was the type of company that we wanted to award the contract to. However, being the auditor, Zenny, I love criteria. Yeah. And we evaluate everything based on criteria. So the RFP process. She's got her hand, she's gesticulating. We evaluate everything on criteria. So during this process, they evaluated and determined that one security company, Cypress, was awarded the number 1 position, and that was the staff recommendation. And then ABC Security was awarded put in rank number 5, and then, like I said, number 6. And now the council, 2 of the council members wanted to recommend to the full council that ABC Security be given the contract. So again, I'm very alarmed when that was made. Councilmember Kernahan actually tried to make a separate motion that at least both ABC and Cypress be moved up to full council to discuss. But however, that was not moved forward, and it was just moved forward that ABC be awarded the contract. So that would go. The motion to put that. The Councilmember Bruner and made the motion.
Who said she's given the money back? I think, right? Or something. That's what I read. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I don't.
Prepared for our interview. Interesting.
And then Councilmember De La Fuente, I think he had seconded the motion, and so that's enough to go to council. Now we'll see what happens tomorrow night.
What would you like to see happen?
And I want to also say, the council, they can do that. In relation to the contracting rules in the city of Oakland, they are allowed to do that. As an auditor, I'm concerned when we're not awarding to one of the top ranked firms, and now we're choosing this. So that was a level of concern. So my office evaluated it further, and I know that there's a contracting period when if you are in front of negotiations with the city, you cannot make campaign contributions.
Has any council member asked you to speak tomorrow night? Are you going to speak on this? Or?
No, I will not be speaking. This is a council matter to decide now. So it is. My concern is that we have a contractor who's in negotiations, who has written campaign contributions, and those appear to be violations. And so I wanted to, because it's a jurisdiction of the Public Ethics Commission, then I wrote a letter to the Public Ethics Commission requesting that they open a complaint. And they will be talking about that tonight. So that's being presented to the Public Ethics Commission tonight. So, but this was very critical to me. This goes back to the integrity and fabric of our city. So it's critical that when we're awarding contracts, that we're awarding them, we're following process, and we're awarding them to those who we believe to be the best qualified to do that based on a fair and equitable process.
Can you explain, to the best of your reasonable capability, Has this issue opened up any other red flags for you?
Just in the fact that we're even having the conversation.
Yeah.
Opens up the red flag, because it goes back to that when we talk about ethics and integrity in government, that why would this occur? That we all need to hold our government to the highest standard.
Right. ABC is located in which district?
It is, I do not know where they physically are located. I do not know what district they are.
I'll be interested to find out. Also, how do you decide, well, I'll just get this, because my pet peeve for years has been the Coliseum. When can I get you to look at the Coliseum, excuse me? And I say that on camera. And it's basically, it goes all the way back to the finance scandals of the late 1990s, SMG, and how SMG has a contract that has never been thoroughly reviewed by either the Alameda City Council or Alameda Board of Supervisors or the Oakland City Council. And I remember Russo told me at one point the Coliseum is a third rail of politics. But if I say that if anybody can look at that, it should be the auditor, who actually would make an even bigger name for herself, I think. So it's like,
and I do hear you, and I want you to know it's important to me, and I'm balancing a lot of different priorities with a very limited staff and a very limited budget, Zenny.
Well, speaking of which, is your budget protected? Where are we? Because
my budget is not protected, and I really want people to understand how vulnerable my budget is. So we have half the size. We're half the size that we really should be in a city this size, if not triple, because we are the people's eyes and ears.
Right.
You know, and everything we go in and evaluate to date, we have found issues that need to be addressed.
What's the threat and cut for your budget, or is it to what degree?
The fact of it is it's an inherent conflict of interest that the city council sets my budget. So you really want the budget set independently, given that I'm independent. So now if I am not doing...
Oh, so they could punish you even though you're the elected official.
Exactly.
How can we go about changing that? Initiative?
Yes. That's really what needs to happen, is that we need to get an initiative.
One?
We're thinking about it. We need to put some legs on it. Absolutely. You know, last cycle it wasn't very good because...
And I'll go a step further. A council member that agrees with this should be helping you do that.
Yes.
Because it would make that council member look like the sound, thoughtful person that councilman wants to be thought of, I would think.
Absolutely, because it's just independent oversight is good for everyone, and it is, we identify areas where the city needs to improve. Now, sometimes people choose to take the audits personally. It's not about taking it personally, it's about process. We have to improve the process. We need to make sure that there's proper checks and balances to ensure that the taxpayers' money is properly spent, that programs are run effectively and efficiently, and that's my responsibility. So you would think that all leadership would be on the side of supporting that.
Now, I got to ask you this question, since I know other Oakland bloggers, if you watch this. How are we treating you as a blogging community? Is there any particular blogger that you want to address without naming names?
I'm grateful for you as a blogging community, and it is so critical that Oaklanders find out what's going on inside City Hall, and so I feel like you all provide a very valuable resource to the citizenry, and you do it in a way which is very like we're doing today. You ask questions that citizens want to know, and it's designed as such that they can get the information's accessible, and so that I'm very grateful for.
And if people want to contact you, how best should they do that?
The best way to do it is for City Auditor at oaklandauditor.com. Oakland Auditor.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so that's it. We've had a great interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zenny. Thank you for your time.